All right, guys, so today we are going to be fixing a bad mix sent in by Johnny Pants 21. Let's just go ahead and listen to it. I gotta stop there. Sorry, Johnny Pants. I love the ideas here, but we are gonna have to fix this guy up. All right, guys, so what I wanna do in this video, I wanna kind of go over my mixing process. My mix wouldn't sound this bad from the start, I will say, but if I were to fix this beat, which I'm going to on the spot, I'm gonna show you guys how I use sound selection, volume levels, a little bit of EQ, and the most important part of all that I think a lot of people really sleep on when it comes to mixing, which is really simple, choosing the right stuff to work on. Because I don't want to have an uphill battle. As you can see here, Johnny Pants 21 had 15 different tracks here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be toning that back just to make my job easier. I don't want to have to mix all these sounds. I'm going to try to find the right sound still to keep the vibe of what he has going on here and without having too much going on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is a lot of these drums are very, very harsh. Like, listen to this cymbal. And that snare, what's the... That thing ain't even, has no chance of hitting, right? So the drums all together, like, I don't care about the patterns, but I'm going to do those later. But first off, I'm just going to have to replace every sound. But before we get into that, I want you to think about this mix real quick like a plate of food, okay? Imagine you wanted somebody to try your food at a restaurant, okay, and they order something and you have 100 different food items on there, okay? You have like a couple bites of a burger that's kind of parsed out. You got a steak, you got some broccoli, then all of a sudden you got like spaghetti slopped on, and then you got, I don't know, just ketchup all over the place, okay? It's going to be hard for that person to really enjoy that meal. I mean, you know, some people may love it, but for the most part, it's really hard to identify like, oh, this is like a delicious burger, or this is like a really good steak. You just have stuff all over the place, and no element, no single or couple elements are going to have a chance to shine. That's the first thing. How I feel about this mix and mixes in general is that you need to have less items on your plate, but the items that are on your plate need to shine. So before I even do the drums, because I think there's a lot wrong with them, there's so much going on with this melody. There's so many frequencies that are clashing and what I'm going to guess is unnecessary items that I can't even optimize that plate. There's 100 items. So what I want to do is I want to narrow down the melodic elements and the bass to only a few elements. So then there's room on the plate for the items that we are going to be putting on there to really be standout, okay? And the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to start listening to layers one by one rather than all together. So let's just see what we're actually working with here. Okay. Really cool respace. So already I like that sound. It's just turned up way too loud. Let's see what else we got. That's also fire. I kind of like to look for a couple layers to rebuild the mix out of. And honestly, yeah, sometimes you'll change the tone, but like you don't need this much stuff. So I'm just checking layers, I'm mixing and matching, and I'm saying, okay, like I only have so much room on my plate. What am I going to want to put on here that's really going to make this sound cool? Okay, that piano is just way too loud. Ooh, okay, but the strings. Strings are a vibe. See, already these two, in my opinion, clash. Like, this is telling an interesting story, this melody. But the second I bring this one, it's trying to tell a different story. And Johnny just like, I don't know, for me personally, like I'm going to take that one out. I'm trying to add things that kind of help the main overall story of it. And when you have sometimes these crazy layers, like this has helped telling like a cohesive story, right? So I'm just going to delete that. I kind of like that reverse sound. We'll come back to it. Ooh. I already like that vocal. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the mixer track. I like this vocal, but I didn't even know this vocal existed with how this mix was set up. What is this little sound? Nope, don't need that either. Okay, I think I'm gonna delete this sound too. It's a little busy. I like this sound. Yeah, okay, so look, next up I'm gonna start putting all these sounds I have into the mixer so we can get some volume levels and EQ going. Okay, so my first problem is this reverse sounds cool, but it seems to be like there is a lot of low end to it, right? So if I go here and you look, yeah, you see all this like lows right here? This is really like, at the end of the day, we already have a bass, so we already got these strings here. And if I look at the spectrum here, look how much low end is already be taken up, right? And we're even gonna have to cut those a little bit. But with that being said, same thing goes for this reverse sound, essentially. So much low end, and honestly, like, this sound is meant to accent the top of the melody and just add a little variety. It's not meant to dominate the low end. So once again, I'm going to cut the lows, okay? So all I'm going to do is just cut the lows a little bit. Okay, next sound that's taking up a lot of room. Like, listen to how much reverb is on that. There's a lot of room being taken by this. So I'm just gonna cut the lows again. So I'm just cutting lows, right? Same thing here. Doesn't even really change the tonality of it. The bass, we're not gonna cut the lows because that's where a lot of the power is coming from, right? So now, just with a little bit of EQ, we've already got a better sound, but the more important part than EQ, in my opinion, by far, is actually going to be the volume levels. When people say they're bad at mixing or something like that, I think what they're really trying to say is that they're not very good at volume levels and understanding where stuff should sit in a mix. I think about things like what should be tallest in the mix and what should be shorter. So I think of a lot of things like if I want this to be the main story of the mix, let's say it's a lead or something, or a lot of times in like rap or pop music or EDM music, the vocal, right? The vocal sits up front. So I kind of think about that as like, that's higher volume. Or something like a snare. Maybe a snare sits not the front, you know, where it's hurting your ears. You guys ever hear those songs with the snares? Or even like this, we had those crashes, right? Like these right here. Like, dude, that shit's way up here. And I'm like, no, the crash should be like here. And I was always wondering why I thought about it like that. But then in FL Studio or in a lot of like mixers and stuff, you can actually, all these little visuals right here help you understand, right? So my first instinct is that bass is too loud, so I'm going to be bringing it down a little bit. And even that lead, it's a little loud. The reverse sound is just an accent, so I'm going to bring that down. One thing you can also do on top of this is increase the volume of a sound, right? Because mixing is something that you do to taste. So when I'm mixing and bringing volume levels down, it's not just that I am trying to make it sound better. I'm trying to see what the flavor should be, because the flavors can be a lot different. Like a medium rare steak is a lot different than like a well done steak, right? Or like one with this kind of seasoning versus that. Like, sure, it's all a steak, but at the end of the day, it can taste a lot different. And I think that's very important here. So if I turn these strings up, changes the whole mix, right? Now this whole song is about the strings, but if I bring that strings all the way down, right, real low, and then I bring this lead all the way up, now the story of the mix is a lot different. Let's say I bring this back, use it as a counter melody, but then I bring this vocal up, Now the vocal is the star of the show, okay? And a lot of times when I'm mixing, I'm doing two different things. One, I'm making sure there's enough room, right? Because a lot of times when all the elements are loud, there's not enough room for anything. And then I'm dialing back saying, okay, who wants to be the star of the show? Is it going to be this vocal over here? Is it going to be this these string sounds? Like, what is evoking the most feeling? And it's not like I'm thinking about it logically. I'm literally trusting my gut. I'm trusting my ears. And I'm saying, like, what's the vibe, right? So I'm going to go ahead and dial these in and see what I like. Oh, and by the way, guys, sometimes you run out of space in FL Studio. Like up here, I only got this much volume. So here's two different ways I like to do the volume. One, here as well, there's a volume level, obviously on the sample. And then there's a secret volume level here that you can also fuck with. This is kind of important. You'll bump into scenarios where you're just kind of maxed on volume. You can also put like fruity balance and turn up the volume that way. But to be honest with you, if as long as you have this little one here, this one here, and then the main one, I think it's fine. And I actually just like how she's singing at the beginning, so I'm just gonna actually just keep looping the beginning part. Do a little transition back into herself. Boom, boom. By the way, guys, I also put a soft clipper on the master. It just kind of helps tame it a little bit, but already right here, I kind of like it. I'm going to bring some of the sounds up, though. Just all relative. Oh, one important note. The reason I just did that is I noticed I was mixing overall a little quietly, even though the mix is clean. So let's say this is a very, very important tip. Let's say you're mixing like here, right? Like right dead center, right? And what I mean by that is, I mean like when you have your audio interface, like where do you have the volume cranked up, right? Do you have it all the way maxed out? Okay, that's probably not the best. Where is your volume sitting? So let's say if you're sitting at 50%, this is a really, really important mixing tip, right? Because the same sound can sound dramatically different at 50%, 100%, or only 20%. And if you have to play the guessing game with yourself because you're mixing at like you don't know what it should sound like, that's not going to be good. And every time a sound, a snare, a kick, or even your overall song will sound different depending on where your master volume is set up on your actual interface. What I suggest doing is pick a spot and just learn what that spot is and only use that spot for the most part. I use about, let's say about 40 to 45% turned up, right? And I make most of the song right there. If I'm just blasting music, sure, it's fun to do every once in a while. But the thing is, my mixes are always really, really terrible. I'm always dialed into about 45%. And just now, like as I was mixing this, I was referencing, I was like, oh, everything's a little quiet. And my first instinct was, oh, wait, where do I have the master volume? Oh, it's sitting there. Okay, I need to bring everything up a little bit because I know that if I want a song to smack, there's a little quiet, right? So about 45% is where I have it. It doesn't matter where you have it. What matters is that you stay consistent about where it is. And then sure, after I make the song, if I want to jam out a little bit, I can turn it up, go walk around. I like to walk around the room and listen to the mix. That's fine if you want to have fun. But for the most part, if you want to have a consistent mix, find a spot on your interface and kind of keep it there. Okay, we're going to keep getting the volume right here, and then we're going to add in drums and swap a couple sounds as well. Okay, so I love the texture of this respace, but I don't know if I'm going to end up using it for the final thing. But now, in general, I like what we got here. Feels like it's got a more cohesive story, and if we want to, we can mute the bass layer. There's a few elements that the listener can remember, right? Rather than just all these sounds and like these clashing signals. Now it's like, oh, we got a little story here. It seems like the star of this is actually going to be the vocal. And then let's just say the co-star, right? The second actor in the show, not the main actor, but the second actor who's the star of the movie is actually this little background synth right here, right? These two. And then everybody else is just supporting characters to the show. Okay, we got the sounds mixed. Now that we have the right sounds mixed, and we've kind of toned it back a little bit. If you look here, we deleted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different layers and toned down the volumes and EQ'd back, okay? Notice how everything I have done in the production so far has mostly been subtracting. I think that's a very important note for producers trying to get better mixes. Try to get better mixes by taking stuff away. Adding stuff in is usually not going to fix things, right? Okay, so now this fucking thing. I'm just going to find a better snare, like right off the rip. Like, I don't need to fix this thing, okay? I'm just going to be real. I think it's a stock, I think these are stock FL sounds. Yeah. But I don't need to fix that. Like, straight up. Like, fixing that is the wrong move. And that's coming from a guy who has drum design software. The goal isn't to sit here, bring out Diablo, right, and sit there and tweak knobs until it sounds good, right? If you're trying to fix the mix, like let's say I'm trying to bring the snare in here, and I'm like, all right, let's link it up to the mixer. Let's grab Diablo, right? Because I bought this from Cymatics. Let me just sit here and boost it up, put the punch up. You know what I'm saying? Get a little sizzle on it. You know, like, dude, that's not the fucking answer. And it's coming from a guy who wants to sell more Diablo, okay? The reason that's not the answer is that there is essentially, even from free Cymatics packs, thousands and thousands of different drum samples that all have interesting tonality, that all have already been pre-mixed. We've already done the compression, worked on the transients, make sure the tone is right. We've already done that. You get way more mileage out of it just finding a better one, because I can sit there and tweak this same sample for what, 30 minutes and maybe get it to sound good? Okay, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to click quickly and go find stuff, because it's like at the end of the day, every time I click a new sample, that's a whole new set of sound design that's already been applied to a sample. And I'm thinking I might want to go kind of trappy for this anyway. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab Apocalypse is a cool kit. So I'm going to go to the drum kit, and you can grab honestly any, but like I got claps, snares. We're just going to find something already made. That's it. Okay, already this one, already right off the rip. I know I'm going to make like a trappy beat. That's why I did this kind of like clap. If I was doing like a different thing, like obviously you'd pick the right sample for you, but like, see, this one's just cutting through the mix so much better. This one doesn't have enough high end. Wasn't even making it through this one. Much stronger transient, just cutting right through the mix, no problem. And then all I got to do, just like earlier, all I got to do is just place the volume level where it needs to be now. Kind of here, so add a little. Okay, a little accented one there. Paste that across. Okay, clap. Check. What's next? Oh, kick. One thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the sample, and I'm just going to go, we're just going to stick in this drum kit right here. I'm going to play this sample, and I'm going to, this doesn't help me much. If I'm listening to kicks, I'm like, oh, that sounds good, put it in. Like, I don't know, because I'm not hearing how the kick frequencies are matching with the actual song. So anytime you're looking for new samples, I always have the loop playing. There's actually a go-to kick I use all the fucking time. It's actually a kick loop. It's in Immortal. This kick always works, and it already has a pattern too, which I really actually like to do. All right, I like that kick. I think it's sitting kind of in a better spot. We'll listen to the original one more time. Here's his original. And what I did was, his original had a lot of bass in there, and it was just kind of occupying this big, like, boom. This one was just a lot tighter and punchier. And honestly, if I were to mess with this track, I would actually turn up a little bit in speed. Okay, let's see what else we got to replace here. Okay, already, that's just not the right sound. It's way too in your face. When you have a hi-hat that's that loud, what ends up happening is just how I was thinking about the levels, right? That is like right in your face. The whole story of the song, even with all the good mixing I had, the story of the song is this hi-hat slapping in your face and the whole thing is fucking ruined. Okay, that's can be how dangerous some of these higher end elements can be. Like the hi-hat, it can essentially ruin it. One thing I would recommend doing, he just did a simple two-step here, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to grab the hats and I'm just going to click it while it's playing. Notice the theme. I'm always just checking everything while the song is looping. Okay, it's very important. I like that one right there. So I'm just going to bring it in, make a new pattern. He just had a two-step on there. And it's still kind of in the front, so we're just going to dial it back. Notice how everything's been subtractive this whole video. Maybe a little pause at the end, give him a little flair. Yep, just a little bit of extra sauce. Okay, next we have to fix this. This thing was the killer of the mix of all. If I had to pick one element that killed the mix, it was actually that thing. I apologize for even playing that again. Let me find another crash. He just had 2 crashes here. I'm just gonna find another one. That's it. That's all you need. Even that's too loud. Then he had a second one here. Let me hear this one. Oof. All right. So this is kind of similar, but it's turned down. Turn it way down. Maybe find a different one. Even lower on the main sound. A lot of these things like cymbals, they occupy the high end of the frequency, so they're almost never going to be over-rocked by the bass or the melodic elements. So the reality is that they'll always be there. Even if you turn them down, they're still noticeable. So a lot of times the hi-hats, the cymbals and stuff like that, I bring them way down. Okay, so for the most part, we have recreated most of it. There's something that I would say, though, just to make this even hit better. We're going to delete all of these original. And something that I think would make this a little bit more fire is actually getting rid of this bass sound, because I think we can get a big 808. And when it comes to 808s, guys, you got to have your go-tos, okay? You can search through all Cymatics packs. If you guys want to steal my favorite, I use this on every single song because I know it hits good. And the thing about 808s is it's nice to have go-to samples that work all the time. I use halves, okay? And there's other good ones like this Orchid Reese. If I want like a good respace, I know I can always go to it. And the thing is that you can also have your own go-to sounds, because if you use mine, that's fine. And that's a good quick way to sound good. But if you find your own, that's how you start to define your unique sounds. It's not necessarily that you make all your sounds, therefore you are unique. No, it's what decisions do you make? How do you mix your stuff? And honestly, what sound selection feels right to your ear? That's what defines your sound. You have to make it just by simply adding it to your go-to folder, and using it a lot helps define your sound. That's how all the big producers are. But real quick, I'm going to add this in. Just going to follow the bass notes real quick. Bring it up. Okay, so here's a little trick. We got a basic pattern. Let me teach you guys something real quick about 808s. So first thing about this 808 pattern. One, I need it turned up all the way. I like to hit the velocity notes maxed out just so I can get that hardest hitting, and then I'll control the volume in other ways. Okay, so the first note is kind of high, right? It's like I want it there, but then it's a little too low. It's a little too rumbly. So one thing that you can do is you can isolate the 808, and I'm actually going to tune the entire song to the 808. So I want the 808 to kind of be hitting in its like perfect zone, because 808s are very tricky. Sometimes they sound good, and then you just move 1 or 2 over and they sound bad. So in this case, I want this bottom note to actually just have a little bit, because even though I can hear it on these HS8s, on like little speakers like iPhone or like a laptop, they might not rumble as good. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to bring it up like maybe 3. 1, 2, 3. So I brought it up 3, right? Because I just think it's going to hit in the zone better. So one little secret mixing trick is, and now I have to take everything. I bring this up 300 cents. I go to the next layer. I bring this up 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to go to the next layer, bring this up 3. So yeah, the song's going to sound a little bit different, but we're optimizing it now. And we have to recheck the mix and do a few things. But now we have this like super hard hitting 808. And all we did was we just shifted the whole song to help support it just a little bit, right? Okay, so now I think the strings are a little too loud because the mix does change when you do that, by the way. So I'm gonna go layer by layer. I'm gonna reintroduce stuff back in. So now this synth is very high, right? It's occupying a much higher frequency range. So I'm gonna try it down an octave now. See how much lower that is now? So that's something you can do as well. You can drop certain elements down an octave when you feel like it's fighting, right? Because that high frequency sound, when it was way up here, it was fighting with the vocal too much, so now I'm like remixing it now that I tuned everything a little bit. So now I'm going to listen to the whole thing in context, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the volume levels again. I am just fixing the volume levels. So right off the rip, I think the kick's just a little too loud. Hi-hat taking a little too loud. Clap is still a little too loud. Oh, whoops. It's actually, this clap is too loud. This song is already kind of seems like it's gearing for like a rapper. So I'm talking about who's the star of the show. But now that I'm like, it's starting to turn into a trap beat, I'm already thinking like, oh, okay, cool. I need more room because the star of the show is not even on the song yet, right? The star of the show is a vocalist, okay? So now I'm going to bring that vocal back down because I need to leave more room. And this Origin plugin right here will make it sound like an old radio. And I'm gonna bring the volume down. So now there's even more room, right? And one little trick, if you guys are making beats, if you want, a lot of people like to duck right around this 2K range, just a little bit to leave extra room for the vocalist. And just like that, we have remixed Johnny Pants 21's entire song here. It did turn out a little different, you know. I will say, like, mixing is a creative process. I chose not to keep all the layers. Of course, anytime you do that, the tonality of the song is going to change. But the reality is that if you look from what we started with, we have deleted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different track layers, and the way we fixed it, and I think this is very important for people trying to fix mixes, is I took away layers. I kept removing stuff because things didn't have enough room to shine. This big 808, it didn't even have enough room to come in earlier, right? Because there was just way too many elements that if I tried to bring that in, it would have only made the problem worse. So first thing I did was just dial back all the melodies, dial back the volume levels, just do a little bit of EQing. I didn't boost fucking anything. And then I needed to fix the drum samples, but to fix the drum samples from the atrocious start, I didn't do crazy plugins. I didn't use any plugins for the drums. All I did was I found better sounds, because the sound designers who are creating the drum kits, especially from Cymatics, are world-class sound designers. They're already processing the stuff through hardware. They're already dialing in the transients and doing all this stuff. By the time you guys get the drums as producers, it's not necessarily your job sit there and design the sound. Your job is to really find the right sound for the beat to make it sound good. So I am not doing any sort of sound design on the actual drum sounds when I'm making music. What I'm doing is I'm just finding the right one that fits the vibe. And, you know, we took that basic pattern and we just made it a lot more cohesive. Yeah, we just made it a lot more cohesive. And I lost my damn... Earlier when I deleted stuff, I like lost some things. Yeah, we lost that little symbol. Anyways, so when it came to drum sounds, I'm not looking to fix shit. I am looking to change stuff out. It might take you 30 minutes to fix a sound and it still might not sound good. But within 30 seconds, I can try 200 drum samples, right? Just by clicking through. So if you change the way you think about mixing by focusing heavy on volume levels, on reducing elements, deleting layers, turning down layers, and removing frequencies with EQ. And then when it comes to your drum sounds, you're also focusing on volume layers, but you're not fixing anything. You're actually just finding better sounds to fit the mix. Your mixes, just by doing this, I'm telling you, are going to get extraordinarily good, okay? I'm not saying there's not top-level stuff you guys can do with compression, with distortion, with, you know, using plugins like Soothe and stuff, but I think that 99.99% of producers who want to get a top-level sounding mix, fundamentally, they're just not focused on the right things, and I think by focusing on this stuff, it'll build you a solid foundation, and I'm telling you, all your mixes will sound better just by applying that. Anyways, thank you, Johnny Pans, for sending in the song. This was a great example of something to fix up. And yeah, I hope this video helped you guys out.